well. We want to thank you all for joining us for our local emergency planning committee meeting, our LEPC meeting. Thank you all for joining us virtual. Unfortunately, we had a few sicknesses, and we noticed that around the area as well, there were some few sicknesses and RSV and the flu, so we thought it would be best to have everybody join virtually today. So we thank you for the pivot to be able to do that. We have a packed agenda today. We've got two presentations. The first one is going to be Jeff Orrock with the National Weather Service. He's the meteorologist in charge. He's going to be providing our winter weather outlook for the 22-23 season. And then our second presentation will be from Verizon Wireless, talking about priority services and Verizon's disaster response. And that'll be Tatoya Gibson, who's the response manager for Verizon. So we definitely appreciate everybody joining today. After our presentations, there will be a time for us to be able to have a roundtable discussion. And during that time, we will ask you to raise your hand and we will call upon you. And that time will be for you to be able to discuss plans, events, questions or concerns that you have regarding your organization or anything that you need from the city with upcoming events. So that'll just be a time for us to be able to just have a roundtable discussion. Before we begin, Scott, do you have anything else, sir?
No, I'm good, Daniel. I just didn't know if you wanted to introduce the other people in your office. But we'll let that go.
All right, thank you, Scott. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Jeff. Jeff, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, sir, so you can start sharing your screen and provide your presentation to us. So thank you very much.
Okay, can you see my screen or is it?
Yes, sir,
Yeah.
I can see it.
Okay,
I can
good.
see it,
Yeah,
Jeff.
for some reason I can't see it. Yeah. I'll just turn my camera on for a second so I can say hi to everybody. I'm gonna turn it back off because our internet here is not always the best and we start glitching. So I'll just say hi to everybody and I'll turn my camera back off. Again, yeah, my name is Jeff Orrock, the meteorologist in charge here at the Weather Service office in Wakefield. So thank you guys for having me. Run through a bunch of slides here pretty quickly. I'm here this afternoon. Get the next slide here. So just kind of going back into last year, people always want to know, how did things play out last year? And looking at the precipitation last year, most of the state was actually, fairly, I'd say, dry or below normal. In fact, the image on the right is really the departure from normal. If you notice, Hampton Roads and a lot of Norfolk area is in that kind of that light yellow. So the precipitation, the liquid overall, the rainfall was really below normal, just a little bit below normal last year. However, when you look at the snowfall for last year, you notice that a lot of Southeast Virginia is in this light blue color, which puts us on the positive side. So we were actually above normal snowfall last year, but we were below normal overall for all the precipitation. So kind of interesting there. As far as temperatures go, it was really an up and down winter. And when all was said and done, if you look here on the right, the area in oranges and red, this is departure from normal. In fact, on the left, you can see it was a fairly warm winter across a lot of Southeast Virginia. And if you look, our departure from normal, I mean, we were almost 2 to 3 degrees on average warmer than normal last year. So we got a couple good rounds of snow that brought us some if folks like snow, they enjoyed it, and it was here and gone pretty quick. And overall, the winter was a little bit dry and a little bit warmer than normal last year. So how much do we usually see in the Norfolk area? I like this graphic because the Hampton Roads region has so much variability when it comes to snowfall. If you look at the average snowfall in Norfolk, it's 6.2 inches. So basically that tells you if I take the last 30 years or so worth of snowfall information for Norfolk and I average it out, I end up with 6.2 inches. The problem is some of those years there's 0 snow and some of those years there's 20 inches of snow. And so all of a sudden you average that out and it says, okay, we get an average of 10 inches of snow. Well, not really. It's kind of a have or have not year. So instead of just looking at the average, if we look at what's called the median, kind of the middle of what we call the distribution, the median snowfall in Norfolk's only 3.5 inches. And that's probably more realistic. If I really had to say, what is a normal snow for Norfolk and the Hampton Roads region, I'd probably put it definitely lower than 6 inches. I'd probably put it more like around 3.4 inches. That's what I would consider to be more normal. Now, there's a lot of variability. 2015-16 winter, we have 5 inches. 16-17 winter, we have 5.4. So you guys remember that winter of 2017 and 2018, we had the blizzard. We got 15 inches of snow. Most of that came in one event, there in that winter. The following winter, hardly any snow at all. Not much to speak of. You get into 19 and 20 winter, not much snow. You get into the 2021 winter, about 3.4 inches, and you get into last winter, and we're back up at 11.2. So you just see all this variability. Some winters we get quite a bit, and some winters we don't get hardly anything. And that's just the way the Hampton Roads region is. So the things that impact our winter and what's going to be impacting us this year, and I'm going to focus on what the El Nino, La Nina, they call it the Southern Oscillation, what's going on with that. That's going to impact our winter. And we'll talk a little bit about this North Atlantic Oscillation, because that's actually impacting us right now. So bottom line is these are much larger global weather patterns and circulations that do play big roles into the weather that we see here in our backyard. Basically, they affect the jet streams. So you have El Nino and La Nina, and that has to do, again, with these sea surface temperature anomalies out in the Pacific Ocean. And when the Pacific Ocean, the sea surface temperatures go through an anomaly, the atmosphere is on top of the ocean, so the atmosphere reacts to that, and it does cause pattern changes. And you guys know our weather flows from west to east. So, our weather originates out over the Pacific Ocean and eventually makes its way across the United States. So right now you see the bottom loop here, that's showing you colder than normal temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. And so we're in what's called a La Nina right now. And so, these last for several months at a time. So, when we see these type of patterns setting up and they last for maybe 3-6 months, maybe even a year or more, it really does influence the weather patterns across the United States, again, because that's where our weather is coming from west to east. So it really kind of messes things up a little bit. So we are in this La Nina pattern, meaning that the sea surface temperatures out there are colder than normal. And so what that usually does is it kind of results in a little bit weaker jet stream. The jet stream is usually kind of stays a little bit farther to the north. You don't have all those ups and downs, zigs and zags quite as much. It becomes more of what we call a zonal, a flatter flow, typically when you have a La Nina. So when that happens, our storminess in the winter is driven by the jet stream. So if the jet stream is going to be kind of flat on average, we would expect this to be fairly dry and maybe even a little bit warmer than normal, because it keeps that cold air bottled up to the north. And if the jet stream is not real active, we're not going to have probably a lot of opportunities for storms. And so usually we are drier and warmer than normal in a La Nina winter. And that's kind of the way this is looking a little bit. Now, this is a very busy slide, and I won't labor on it too much. But this, if you look at the very last block here where it says La Nina, what we've done locally, if we've broken down every single winter we've experienced, whether it was El Nino, it was normal out there in the Pacific, or it was La Nina. And what you do notice, this line right here during La Nina years, this is for Norfolk, there's a pretty good signal that when we're in a La Nina winter, the temperatures in Norfolk, are a little bit warmer than normal. And so that's what you're seeing here, where you see this red line. This is our normal temperature during La Nina episodes. So yeah, it might be a safe bet that we're going to be maybe on average warmer than normal, just like last year. Snowfall during La Nina, the far right-hand column, if you notice the red line here is the average snowfall during La Nina. And you do notice it's a little, it's a teeny bit lower. We're talking about maybe an inch or two. This is not earth-shattering. But you do notice the average snowfall in La Nina is a little bit less. However, if you notice, you see a lot of these, you see some of these blue spikes, these big snowfall events. Here's a big snowfall event during La Nina. We had about 25 inches of snow, even though it was a La Nina winter. So it doesn't mean there's not going to be any big snows. It may just mean there's less of a chance for it. But you see all these big blue spikes above that red line. Those are all pretty good snows. So it doesn't mean there's no chance of snow. It just means it's probably going to be warmer than normal. It may be drier than normal, like last year. But just like last year, there's warmer and drier than normal, and we're above normal snowfall. So it's just the variability in Hampton Roads is just so high. And so this is the outlook for this winter that came from the Climate Prediction Center. So what you see here is, the temperature outlook, just like you would expect with La Nina, most of the southern U.S. and up the eastern seaboard they're expecting above normal temperatures, or at least there's a good confidence that there will be above normal temperatures this winter. And that runs from December through February. That's the time frame we're talking about. As far as precipitation, again, very classic La Nina, where they're expecting most of the South to stay dry. Maybe our confidence isn't quite as high. We're not quite as brown as, say, they are down here in Texas and parts of Florida, but there's still some confidence that overall the winter will be drier than normal. Again, we could still see a good snow or two. It's just a matter of how it lines up. When we get the precipitation, do we get the cold air? And if we do, we can still get a decent snow out of it. So we'll have to see how that plays out this year. The other thing that impacts our weather is what we call the North Atlantic Oscillation. And I won't get into all the technical meteorological stuff, but what this does is this is a weather pattern that shifts out over the Atlantic and eastern Canada, and it also influences the jet stream. And so this is a weather pattern anomaly that sets up over Greenland down into Nova Scotia and the northern part of the Atlantic. And this also causes fluctuations in the jet stream. And we get into a certain phase where it gets into what we call a blocking pattern, and it causes the jet stream, this black line here, it really causes it to zigzag. It causes it to kind of ripple north and south. And when it does that, obviously, when it digs south, it can bring all that cold air down from the poles down the eastern seaboard, and it can get us, really cold, and it can also get us some stormy weather when we get these dips in the jet stream. And that's called the negative phase of the North Atlantic Oscillation. And the positive phase, it's an opposite pattern. Notice how the jet stream is real flat and zonal, and this would be warm and dry. Now, what's interesting about the North Atlantic Oscillation is that this changes about every 2 to 4 weeks. So the La Nina in the Pacific Ocean, that's here all winter. That's not going to go away. That's not going to change. So we know that's out there. But this North Atlantic Oscillation, this changes every couple weeks. And this is why we see these big swings between warm spells. We'll be warm for a couple weeks, and then all of a sudden, like right now, we're cold again for a couple weeks. And in fact, if you go look at the North Atlantic Oscillation, if I can find my mouse, if you look at the North Atlantic Oscillation right now, and we can forecast this out a couple weeks in advance. I'll click on it here. You can kind of see here, it was on the middle line here is normal. So you kind of see here we were above, it was in the positive phase. Here, last week and the week before, meaning that, and that way you'd expect warmer temperatures. And notice how this line is now diving down, and all the red lines represent the forecast. This is the GFS model forecast of the pattern, and you see it going strongly negative. And so that's why we're getting cold, and we're staying cold for a little while. Now, once you get way out in the future here, it's kind of a crapshoot a little bit, but you do notice that on average, these red lines stay below the 0 line. So the North Atlantic Oscillation is going negative, which is a cold phase for us. And it's going to stay negative for a while. And that's why right now we're getting cold. We're going to get colder. We got another cold front coming in on Sunday, and we're going to stay cold. We may start to rebound a little bit by the time we get to Thanksgiving and start to get maybe closer back to normal temperatures. But it's getting cold, and it's going to stay cold. And it's all due to how this North Atlantic Oscillation, we're in this negative phase right now. And it's going to be messing with the jet stream and allowing that cold air to come south. So the main thing here to realize is that we do get a lot of variability in the winter. And ironically, the weather that we see in our backyard is being in the wintertime is being driven by what's happening out in the Pacific Ocean on the West Coast, as well as what's happening over in Greenland and off of Nova Scotia and the Northern Atlantic. It's really weird to think about that the weather we experience here, and whether we get into a cold, stormy pattern or we get into a dry, warm pattern, it has everything to do with what the global circulation is in the winter. And these are two major influences that change that. But North Atlantic Oscillation, that really gives us our variability in the winter. And like I said, the negative phase is our cold phase. So really quickly, when we start forecasting snow, I'll go through some forecast tools for you guys just really fast. We provide all kinds of snowfall forecast information and these hourly forecasts. The nice thing about it now is that, we try to give a lot more educated information. We can tell you, okay, there's going to be 4 to 5 inches of snow, but what's the chance it could be 8 inches of snow? What's the chance it could be 12 inches of snow? We try to dial that in. And what we at the Weather Service don't do is we won't come out and just say, well, the forecast snow in Norfolk is anywhere from 2 to 6 inches. And you do see that a lot. Our job is to dial it in. We give our best guess. We'll say, look, Our best guess is 4 to 5 inches. You know, could it be 6 inches? Yes. Here's the probability that it could go to 6 inches. Could it be 8? Probably not, but maybe there's a 20% chance it could be 8 inches. So we have a lot of good information, a lot of very probabilistic information. And without getting too confusing, think about us running a whole bunch of weather models. And in fact, now there's about 90 different models and ensembles that we run. So when you hear folks on TV talking about, hey, the GFS model saying this or the European model saying that, the GFS model has about 30 different versions. The European model has 60 different versions. And on top of that, there's a whole lot of other models that we use way beyond the GFS and European. Or we call them high-res models. So you end up with just, I mean, over 90 different models really that are forecasting, let's say, snowfall. And so you get 90 different answers. And so you run a statistical analysis on that, and you get what's called the bell curve. So, you know, most of the models might be, you know, clustering right here. Let's say the middle at the top of this bell curve is 4 to 6 inches of snow. So you say, okay, a lot of the models are forecasting 4 to 6 inches of snow. And we're probably going to stay close to what we call the consensus. You know, where is a sweet spot? Are there some models predicting, you know, maybe upwards of 10 inches of snow out here towards the right-hand side? Yeah, there's a few of them out there. Are there some models maybe saying we're only going to get 1 to 2 inches of snow? Sure. And they're way over here on the left side. Those are called outliers. And so, you know, somewhere in the middle here in this bell curve, you know, in this sweet spot is really going to be reality. And so, you know, what are the probabilities there? You know, and so, you know, we can give people a worst case. We can say, yeah, if you want to count for 90% of all possible solutions, instead of 4 inches, you could get 10 inches. If you want to throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. You know, is that probably going to happen? No. But I mean, you know, is there a 1 in 10 chance? Maybe. So I'll show you what this looks like. So when we produce our forecast, you know, we always provide our most likely forecast. How much snowfall are we expecting? And we also say our worst case scenario. So a worst case scenario is taken into account 90% of all possible solutions. If I had to take into account just about everything under the sun when it comes to weather models, what's the worst case you could have? And we provide that information. But we also provide our best guess. In addition to that, we could also get probability. So what's the chance you're going to see 1 inch of snow or more? What's the chance you're going to see 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches? And the way you think about this is what percent of the model. So if you're saying a percent chance of 4 inches of snow. So if I look at Washington, D.C., and it says there's a 30% chance of 4 inches of snow, what that's actually telling you is that 30% of the models are forecasting 4 inches of snow or more. So it's not a lot of them, it's less than half, but it's telling you 30% of the models are actually forecasting 4 inches of snow or more. Where when you come down here, let's say to Charlottesville, the chance of getting 4 inches, only 1% of the models are forecasting 4 inches of snow. So that's very unlikely. But when you get up to Washington and Leesburg, and up in this area, in this graphic, yeah, I mean, you have about a third of the models, almost about on average 33% of the models are forecasting 4 inches. So it definitely could happen. And we do that for all these different snow amounts. The way that you get to these, when you're on our website, you just go to the Wakefield National Weather Service website, and it's really easy. Just scroll down the web page and click on the snowflake. When you click on the snowflake icon, the page will come up, and it's not going to be anything for us right now, but you'll see our expected snowfall. You'll see our worst case, our high end amount, and you'll see all these probabilities, the chance of getting, you know, 1, 2, 4, 6, 8 or more, you know, on through. And then you also get probabilities for individual cities. So like for here, if I were to go down here and just select, you know, anybody, I'm gonna just do city of Norfolk. I can click on that, and it actually gives me probabilities at different locations of how much what the snowfall might be. And again, this is a model distribution. What percent of the models are predicting that amount of snow? So again, just click on the snowflake on our website, and that takes you right to that. And that's what we use. That's what we're briefing our emergency managers and stuff with, is this type of information. So this is what an event looked like from last year, to kind of give you an example of how this actually works in real life. So we were forecasting about 4 to 6 inches of snow right around Norfolk. Kind of see this line where when you got to the west, especially over Suffolk, dropping down to 3 to 4 inches. And by the time you got to Franklin and up on the peninsula, around 2 to 3 inches. And this was our forecast. On the right-hand side, this is the, you know, if you want to take into account 90% of all the models, it was saying, okay, definitely could be about 6 inches of snow. So we're forecasting 4 inches and 6 inches. Yeah, you know, there's a chance we could see 6. Even back towards Franklin, even though we're only forecasting 2 to 3, worst case could be about 5 inches of snow, even all the way up here to Accomack, maybe about 5 inches of snow, based on what the models are saying statistically. So the likelihood of getting 6 inches of snow, this is kind of interesting because this is what the probability of 6 inches was. And you notice for Norfolk, the probability for 6 inches of snow is about 49%. And so that's telling you almost half of the models are forecasting 6 inches of snow, even up here towards Accomack. So the models are starting to trend snowier and colder statistically. And so this is kind of showing you, if we're going to hit 6 inches, I mean, we color code this to make it look a little bit more easier to interpret. So if you're in the orange, you're kind of in the sweet spot, you're 40 to 70% chance. So there's a pretty good chance that we could see 6 inches of snow in this area in orange. Once you get west of that, much lower chance back towards Richmond. So then the next slide, the chance of 8 inches of snow in Norfolk, you notice here the number is 33. So that means 33% or a third of the models are actually forecasting 8 inches of snow there in Norfolk. In fact, you see a little area in orange here showing up where you get above 40% probability of 8. So, we're forecasting 4 to 6. Could we make a run at 8? If I was a planning person, I'd say, yeah, you got a 1 in 3 chance. I mean, the 33% of the models predicting 8 inches of snow, to me, that's significant. And that was something I would brief. I would tell folks, yeah, it could go above 6 inches. 8 inches is a possibility. The chance of getting a foot of snow, down almost 10%, 10, 11%. So that tells you only 10% of the models roughly are forecasting a foot of snow. And that's pretty low. So, I would not expect a foot of snow, but I would expect maybe 5 to 6 and might be able to make a run at 8 if I was interpreting this. That's probably how we were briefing this at the time. And if you look at what actually happened, a lot of variability, about 3 to 4 back here in Franklin. You got into about 5 inches, 4.5 to 5 by the time you got to Suffolk. Norfolk itself, mostly was about 5 to 5.5 inches of snow. But then once you get down here, right where it showed that 8-inch probability, sure enough, you're starting to see some higher amounts down here, just southeast of Norfolk, over towards Virginia Beach. Notice up towards the Eastern Shore, they only got 3 inches of snow. So, and that's what we had forecast up there. We forecasted the 2 to 3. But they did have probability of 6, but that didn't play out. And we weren't leaning that way. We were more focused on the snowfall down here on the south side of Hampton Roads, and it worked out pretty well. But you did notice you definitely got those higher amounts. You definitely saw those 6 to 8 inch snowfall totals that the statistics of the models were telling you. So this is how we forecast nowadays. It's very statistically driven. It is still based in the models, but it is a lot of model data, more than an individual person can digest. And that's why we do these statistical analyses and come up and develop probabilities so that we can kind of look at this in the bigger picture. It allows us to provide a much more educated type of briefing and educated insight. So, this is where you might hear folks saying, we could get anywhere from 2 to 6 inches of snow or 2 to 8 inches of snow. And you'll hear that. And the reality is, yes, on the low end, you could get 2. On the high end, you could get 8. And so, then the question becomes, these are these probabilities, who might only get 2 and where is the best place to get that 8 inches of snow? And we provide that type of information. So really encourage folks to check out that our winter page when we get into winter storms. The last thing I'll mention is once you know there's snowfall, this looks super busy. But once you know there's snow in the forecast, you can go to our hourly weather graphs. And it's going to be an hour by hour forecast of everything: temperature, your wind direction and wind speed. When is it going to rain? When is it going to be snowfall? When is it going to be freezing rain and sleet? It gives you an hour by hour breakdown of everything. And so if you want to know, okay, when's the best time for snow? Or, after it stops snowing, is it going to warm up above freezing tomorrow? Or are we going to stay below freezing? Or how long are we going to stay below freezing? Looking at the temperatures. So it's pretty easy to find. Just, go back to the Wakefield website. Go in here to the Norfolk area. You can just kind of click on the map there in Norfolk. Give it a second, and you'll get your local forecast here for where you click. See that the green square? So that's where you clicked. And so you can move this around. If I want to get a little closer out here, maybe towards Willoughby, or if I want to move maybe a little bit further down into Norfolk, I can click on the map. Notice how it updated. I kind of have my week at a glance up here. But if you keep on scrolling down, you see this hourly weather forecast, this table. So click on that, and it's going to be pretty busy at first. So you can clean it up. You can see, I don't care about dew point. I don't care about, humidity. Maybe you want to know sky cover, cloudy versus sunny. Um, you know, I'll turn thunder off, but yeah, maybe you do want to know when it's going to start snowing. And let's say the snow is actually going to start on let's say, for example, let's say it's going to be Thursday. So let's say, you know what, I'm going to start my forecast at 4 a.m. on Thursday, and I hit submit, and it'll update. And so there's all my weather information. My temperature is at top, my wind direction and wind speeds here. The blue line is my sky cover, so that means it's going to be sunny. There's zero cloud cover, and there's zero chance of rain. You see the clouds start to increase there, maybe on as you get into a Saturday night. But and notice there's no chance of rain. But you see rain, snow, freezing rain, sleet. So if we had anything going on, you would actually be able to tell what hours we think it's what's going to be falling from the sky. So this is what we use with DOT and a lot of our emergency management partners. It's our most detailed forecast we can provide, and this goes out through 7 days. So it gives us a lot of detail, a lot of way to communicate information. So bottom line is we balance the probabilities, what we think is going to happen, and then we'll use hourly weather graphs to kind of describe, when it's going to be our worst time. When are we going to see most of the heaviest snowfall? How cold is it going to be, and how long is it going to stay cold? That's a big deal. If you guys remember that blizzard that we had several years ago, I had to go back in and look how often it happens. You had about 8 to 12 inches of snow, and the temperature didn't get above 34 degrees for like 5 days. And so it just stayed frozen and stayed ice. And it's a real struggle for DOT because literally they're trying to remove a block of ice from the ground, and it's almost impossible. And so it locked Norfolk up for almost an entire week. That's a very rare event to get a snowfall of 4 inches or more and to stay that cold for that long. That happens very rarely. So we went back in and looked at that. But how long the temperature stay cold, that's a big deal. And so that's really important. So that's all I had today. That's my email address there, and that's our website. So thank you guys for having me.
Jeff, thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's always very interesting to see the weather predictions that have morphed over the few years in your forecasting tools that the National Weather Service has, how accurate it can be and it has gotten. So we definitely appreciate your time. Does anybody have any questions for Jeff regarding the winter weather outlook? Oh, look at that, Jeff. You did a fantastic job. Nobody's got any questions, and we're all going to expect a warm winter with lots of snow. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate you, as always. Just for everybody else, I know since we're talking about the weather, we do have the Norfolk Harbor races this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Saturday morning will be the 1 mile race and the 5K in downtown Norfolk. And it's looking to be about 40 degrees, but no rain in sight. So I know runners love the cold, so that's good. For the parade on Saturday night, no rain. The parade starts at 7 o'clock in downtown Norfolk, the Grand Illumination Parade. It'll be about 40 and 50 degrees there and getting colder that night too. So bring a blanket and bundle up. And then Sunday morning is the 10K and the half marathon. So expect traffic delays around downtown Norfolk and Hampton Boulevard. And then again, it'll be 40 degrees in the morning around there. So another cold start to the race, but no rain in sight for the weekend. So we're thankful for that. All right, Jeff, thank you so much. I'll turn it over to Scott, who will introduce our next presenter.
Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jeff. Excited about the forecast, and hopefully it will be a mild winter and we won't have to go through much. Right now, I'd like to turn it over to our next guest speaker, Ms. Toya Gibson. She is with Verizon, and she's the manager there of their crisis response team. She has not exactly the East Coast, but she does cover Virginia, West Virginia area and response. She's done a lot for us in regards to communications and making sure we're fit. She's helped us out this past couple weeks with the parade and actually making sure we're connected. And Verizon actually came down to see if we could boost the signal for all those 50, 60,000 folks outside. But there's other projects that she'll be working on, or her team will be working on with us as a city. But I thought what she does and the response and the places she goes to would be very interesting for the group, and she could talk about some of the toys that Verizon has. So, Ms. Gibson, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. You made me sound so great. Well,
You are
thank
great.
you all. Oh, thank you, Scott. Thank you all for having me. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome. All right. Again, my name is Tatoya Gibson, and I am your Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Manager. I cover the Commonwealth, West Virginia, and nationwide DoD. All right, so I really wanted to make sure that you all knew exactly what the Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Team is. What we do is we're ready to respond to the front line. We support all of public safety to include first responders, the military, public safety professionals, government agencies, and their communities. Our main mission is to help them stay connected with that Verizon Frontline technology during emergencies and planned events 24/7. I really want to put that emphasis on that 24/7 because any time of day, Scott could probably vouch for me on this. You can either contact that 1-800 number or you can contact me directly. What we really like to do, especially myself here in the Commonwealth, is we like to develop those relationships where you feel comfortable to reach out to any member of our team if you have any questions about anything that we could possibly do to assist, or maybe you just want to run a couple things by us to see if we have solutions to assist with that, or if we can get the solutions built for you. All right, so again, we're providing that nationwide 24/7 hotline coverage. We provide loaner phones, data devices, all sorts of first responder solutions to include routers, antenna solutions, in-building solutions, which currently right now they're using it downtown preparing for the Illumination Festival or parade this coming weekend. We also have the cows, the Colts, the MCTs. We assist with emergency communications and charging centers, pre-event planning site assessments, and exercise support, search and rescue as well. And when we say search and rescue, we're not meaning just out there providing that sort of coverage as far as connectivity and bringing out some of those smaller deployables, or even if we bring out satellite Pico trailers. We're also, my entire team is also 107 drone pilot qualified. Not only do we have our own drones, but we also bring out larger drones that can possibly carry payload and so forth. Our support model, I'm sure many of you have seen these sort of support models before: prepare, respond, recover, and mitigate. During that preparation phase of the support model, what we like to do is get in there with the first responder agencies and do some joint training, whether it be conducting or working alongside of you to make sure that your exercise goes well. But what better way to get to know you and build those relationships with the different agencies and prepare for those disasters or those planned or unplanned events, rather than to get in there and work alongside of you, finding out what solutions work best for you. That way, when the situation arises where we have to run to that disaster or we have to participate in something that was unexpected, we already know what obstacles we face and how to overcome those. During that response phase, of course, we're providing that first responder emergency support. We provide that virtual EOC center activation support and enhanced connectivity and coverage solutions. During that mitigation and recovery phase, of course, that recovery phase, we're supporting the FEMA functions. Oh, my screen is looking weird. Sorry. We're supporting those, reaching out to those clients, those customers, those agencies, and making sure that there's nothing else that we can offer. And of course, during that mitigation phase, those post-event debriefs with emergency managers, such as yourselves. What we like to do is, of course, we like at Verizon, we would love to be perfect, but we are absolutely not perfect. So what we want to do is, what can we do better? What can we do to make the next disaster a little less confusing, and streamline the whole process? And down in the left hand corner, you'll see, in year to date in 2021, some of our customer engagements reached upward of 2,000, customer deployments over 100,000, over 1,000. 8,000 year-to-date solutions loan, and we've covered 48 states. We've supported those so far. disaster response, of course, those search and rescue operations that EOC support. When I say EOC support, meaning that we like to have a Verizon team member in that EOC with you all, so they have a direct line to communicate with myself, who is the boots on the ground, who's out there, that can get to that request fast and efficiently, as well as being in contact with our network operations team members as well. Shelter support, the rebuild phase with utilities. Some of the assets that we provide, of course, are those satellite communications, phones, MiFis, tablets, routers, UAS support, and complete EOC communications. And you'll see some of our different solutions, larger scale solutions here on the screen. These are some of the different deployments that it's been on recently. Of course, down in Hurricane Ian, which we'll get into a little bit later, many of these were seen there. Over in Hurley when the flooding took place, over in Kentucky with those winter tornadoes that took place last year. We're everywhere. And of course, providing that remote area support. Not always it's easy for a vehicle or so forth to get into a specific area to provide the connectivity, that mission critical connectivity to keep public safety connected during times of disasters. So again, you see us flying one of our drones to get payload, or actually it was a phone, up to an individual where it would have taken minimum 2.5 hours to get to them during that train derailment you see in the above picture. But with us being able to fly it to them, it took us all of 15 minutes. Again, we're providing those search and rescue EOC support, and again, some of the assets that are available. Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Team, this is in the first half of 2022. The Verizon Frontline Crisis Response Team worked alongside first responders at hurricanes, wildfires, severe weather, planned events, and other emergencies across all the 50 states. And when I say all the 50 states, we're strategically placed. My team is approximately 32 individuals that's strategically placed across the entire United States. Now, when I mentioned before that I cover Virginia, West Virginia, and nationwide DoD, that does not mean anything when there's a disaster. When there's a disaster, the entire team goes running to assist public safety. So those lines of AOR, those all drop during those gray sky days. Also, if there's something that we can loan out to you for a temporary asset that can be shipped to you if it's not an emergency, say for instance, you have a planned event that's coming up, which the illumination parade is actually perfect. I had some devices that were shipped down from our logistics section. These can be overnighted to you. Of course, all of this is free of charge. It's included in your Verizon service, but not only would it be included if you were a Verizon employee, or excuse me, a Verizon customer, but it's for all public safety. We're showing our dedication to assist public safety during disasters, emergency response, and so forth. And here you'll see some of our numbers as in the first half of 2022. All right, I mentioned Ian earlier. Now, I'm sure everyone's aware that what took place down in Ian and how horrific the destruction was down there. These are just some of the assets and our numbers, our statistics for down there a week after it happened. These events and these responses that are taking place are still ongoing. We still have majority of our equipment down there, and we still are loaning out additional equipment. Now, also, we weren't we were pre-staged in the Carolinas, Georgia, and also here in Virginia. My boss and also, excuse me, my director and also another CRM, a crisis response team manager, came over to cover my AOR here in Virginia to make sure that everyone here was taken care of just in case any of the flooding and so forth went awry. I actually went down to North Carolina to cover the Carolinas. So lucky for us, it all worked out and we were able to cover all of the Virginias as well as all the way down south into Ian. We like to build big. We like to create things that are innovative, that can be utilized during disasters, that can be utilized to build networks and create that connectivity, that all important create connectivity that's critical for the mission. So here you'll see Thor. It's the world's first private 5G MEC disaster response command vehicle center vehicle. This has been actually deployed here in Virginia quite a few times. More recently, it was over in Quantico when Operations Welcome Allies was taking place. What we did was we utilized this to build a complete network where there was absolutely nothing, providing that mission critical communication support and so forth. More recently than that, it was down in Hurricane Ian, It traveled down from Pennsylvania all the way down, making sure everybody was good, all the way down to Ian, where provided that critical support as well. As I mentioned, we really like to create and build more, find those innovative solutions to make everything that we do to support public safety even better. And let's face it, technology changes daily, if not weekly. I'm here to tell you that there isn't a week that goes by where I don't have new equipment to learn, understand, create with, and again, that's where those exercises and that training alongside your agencies come into play, because these are also ways that we can get in there with you and test out these solutions to make sure they're good to go when that disaster arises. Here you'll see the MUT, the Mobile Utility Technology Transport. I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of our different solutions sound like some sort of farm animal and or some kind of animal. What this is the cruiser of the future, allowing multiple connectivity options for mission critical communications. You'll see the drone support, the routers and so forth, and hopefully this will work.
Latoya, we lost sound on that clip.
No sound? Then let's take it off. All right, we'll go to the next one. I'll be sure to send out that video so you can see exactly what was being built. On the screen, you actually saw my my senior manager, which is Jason Mitchell, who's been with the company for approximately 11 years, but he's also a retired police officer. I mentioned that we have a wide range of team members strategically placed across the United States. Those team members include police officers, police chiefs, current firefighters, as well as 911 operators, emergency managers, myself as a veteran emergency manager. So we understand how critical it is and how urgent we need to be when it comes to disaster response or assisting public safety. So in a nutshell, the Verizon Frontline delivers the comprehensive solutions that suit the first responders' need, creating that interoperability with connectivity, solutions and situational awareness, devices and equipment, that 5G innovation, advanced response, and the Verizon First Responder Advisory Council. Now, what the VFREC is what we like to call them, is it's a team of the elite emergency public safety responders and officials that have experience that is basically unmatched, as far as we have people on there that were involved in several different instances when it came to 9/11. We have police commissioners. We have people who have come from all walks of life having to deal with public safety that we also utilize to assist us with coming up with the best plans to support public safety, creating that network reliability and resilience. If you want to find out a little bit more of the things that we do or how to get in contact with us, again, you'll see on the screen, and I'll definitely make sure that Scott can email a lot of this information out to you after the briefing, where you can contact us if you need assistance for any time of the day. You can contact me directly. Also, like I mentioned, you may not know if we have the solution for you, or if we have a way of helping and assisting you. Always go on the website and check a lot of the information there. But again, please do not. Hello?
We got you now. You're cut out a little bit, but we got you back.
All right. All right. Sorry about that. My computer is going crazy today for some reason. But again, I really wanted to reiterate that these are temporary solutions, the phones, the routers, anything that we have in our arsenal, not just in our logistics section, but also our satellites and different things like that, that I carry in the back of the truck with me anywhere that I go. A lot of times, even if I'm on vacation, I recall several years back where we were out at Virginia Beach on vacation, and there was a response that needed to take place where I just happened to be there. So I was very grateful to have my equipment on me. And also, I just really wanted to reiterate that these devices, these solutions that we loan to you for temporary use are available to you for 30 days. Now, of course, if there's extenuating circumstances, we can work out something where possibly we can loan them to you for longer. But again, they're free of charge. So if you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. And that's all I have.
Can you go into one of the devices called the push to talk and what we did with that recently?
All right, so the push to talk, what we did, push to talk is basically an LMR, but it's utilizing cell phones. It's utilizing phones. So not only is it similar to an LMR radio, walkie-talkie, if you will, it's push to talk, so you can use it for a walkie-talkie or, excuse me, an LMR radio, or you can also utilize it for an actual cell phone. What we did for the parade, the illumination parade for the city council, what we did was we sent them some devices so they could utilize, so they can all remain in contact. And it already has that priority preemptive calling feature on it. So what they'll be able to do is we created one big talk group, but there's other instances where we create smaller talk groups so they can stay in contact with each other. And as well as we can add additional people to that talk group so they can stay in contact with each other throughout the parade, throughout the festival, and any other avenue that they decide they want to walk around or go to, utilizing cell phones. We also
And
installed,
that was free of,
sorry, go ahead.
no, there was a pause. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, it also delivered a network extender to make that connection stronger down at the EOC. Is it the EOC, Scott, or was that the command center where you'll be sitting?
So that is the DNC command center,
Yes.
and we'll be setting up the EOC from there.
Awesome, awesome. Again, to make that network stronger, that connectivity stronger, so all of public safety can stay in contact with each other throughout the entire parade and have the ability to we made them um, a priority. What you'll find with other companies, I will never mention another company's name because I do feel that Verizon has shown its dedication to public safety and public mission critical support. We take the time to make, when we say priority, you are the priority. My team and public safety for Verizon is dedicated to public safety. We feel that if everyone's a priority, then no one's a priority. So that's where that priority and preemptive service comes into play.
Okay, I have a question from Jared. Go ahead.
Hey, good afternoon, Toy. I'm Jared Hernig. I'm the Director of Emergency Management at Old Dominion University here in Norfolk, and thanks for
Hey.
making this presentation today. My question is, how do y'all prioritize the allocation of cows and colts among competing interests? For say, like we've got football games that we have on campus where we have some network inundation and difficulty with that. But we also recognize that we're kind of a small fish in a big pond, and there's other folks that have greater needs, and special events may be trumped by other public safety type of events. Can you kind of explain how that looks at maybe a local or regional or even state or larger level?
Well, what's great about being here in the Commonwealth is not only do you have all of my assets that are available as far as satellite Pico trailers, different routers, and different solutions such as that, but we also have the benefit of having other services that perform network operations who have a plethora of different types of devices and solutions and large scale like the cows, the colts, and so forth like that. Now, I do want to reiterate, of course, when there is a disaster, all assets are going that way. We ran into that quite a bit here when all assets from West Virginia, well, excuse me, Delaware, Pennsylvania, all of those assets all the way down went down to Ian because that's exactly where the need was. But we were able to bring over some assets that were in Indiana. We were able to bring up some assets that were in Tennessee and that were in Kentucky to assist with during that the peanut festival, I believe that was taking place over in Suffolk. So we're always going to try if there's a need for it. And of course, a disaster will always come first. It depends on the need, how that all plays out. So the best way, if you have a planned event that's coming up, we can schedule possibly 2 or 3 years out in advance. The faster you know about that planned event and let us know about it, the faster we can start making sure we have those resources available or trying to allocate the resources and reserve them for your event. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for asking. I could talk about this stuff all day. I love it. When I
Yeah.
tell you that this is the best thing that I don't feel like I've worked a day. Having the ability to retire from the world's greatest Air Force, then switch over to the American Red Cross and do disaster and service to the armed forces with them, to be able to have it all collide and bring in that technology and be able to still assist my community and bring in that emergency management in me out again. Please, please, when I say don't hesitate to reach out to us, I'll provide my information. You want to run through some scenarios and different things like that, please don't hesitate to call us.
And I can tell everybody, when we met with the downtown council over the parade, uh, uh, just like what she's saying now, we got a list of all the major events happening in Norfolk, and we're putting them together for her for support and putting them on their calendar, whether it's Harbor Fest, Patriotic Festival, or any of the other large festivals down at Town Point Park. We just put them in our wish list and our calendar list, and we see the availability of her group. We also looked at bringing one of these cows down for the parade, but uh, all the large spots were taken care of. So just because you request something, you have to have that capability. And I know, Jared, you've got plenty of room to bring a large 18-wheeler in a parking lot and set it up somewhere. But for downtown, it just didn't work for the parade this time. But for next year's parade, we'll definitely make an area where we can bring in one of those cows in there and set up more connectivity for the group. Um, the push to talk is wonderful. We practiced all weekend, and the DNC folks got a chance to practice Monday and Tuesday, so they're looking forward to live testing on Saturday as the parade begins. I'll put it out to anyone else has a question for Ms. Gibson. Go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll get started. Okay, well, I'll just add this other note in. I know they responded to the different hazard events in disaster zones up in Tennessee, up in Florida as well. But the resources that they bring are incredible just to get the first responders being able to talk to each other. Without that, if you look back at your own organizations, we have some police radios or fire radios that the state police aren't on the same channel, so we can't really talk back and forth. But with connectivity and Verizon, we can make that communication a lot smoother. So what they're doing down in Florida, only communications with the first responders, but with the general public, and being able to get that is great.
And again, Scott, if anyone wants me to possibly come out and show some of this equipment to them so they can get a, it's a lot easier when you get to hold it in your hands and throw it around and see what it can do and how it performs. That could be very possible. Of course, we got the holidays coming up, but if there's a way that we can do some one-on-ones, absolutely.
Great. So any of your organizations are planning an exercise, please keep Toya and her group in the back of your head if you want to look at testing your communication skills for any hospital, any city, any private or public agency exercise you want to conduct. That would be a great tool to have.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me, Scott. I'm going to send over some information for the group if you would like to forward it out to them, how to get in contact with us, how to request equipment if they need it, and so forth.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you all
appreciate
so
you stopping
much.
on. And I'll
Bye-bye,
be happy to
everyone.
forward all that information to everyone in the updated email.
Yes. Thank you so much, Scott.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, Dan, are you live?
Yes, sir. Tatoya, thank you so much for your partnership with Verizon. We value that, and we value you coming on today to be able to discuss how the Verizon team can help during disaster response. So thank you so much. Hopefully someone on the line will take you up on your offer and have you out to their organization to be able to do a hands-on experience with the Verizon team. So Tatoya, thank you so much.
My
Right.
pleasure.
I'm going to go ahead and post a couple of things in the chat. The first one is, since we're talking about our winter weather, I wanted to post our winter weather plan in the chat. It also goes over our primary and secondary snow routes. So if you have some time, please go ahead and take a look at that. We'd love to hear feedback from you. So if you see something in there that you would like added, or if you have any questions or concerns, please go ahead and reach out to us. We'd love to be able to get your input on these plans, because you are part of this group to help us make us a better organization with everybody's teamwork. So thank you so much. And the second one is going to be the National Weather Services Wakefield's website, to where Jeff showed the winter weather outlook and how you can access those tools for your organization. Because I know sometimes when we have community events, people are like, well, what's the weather going to be? So this website will be able to provide you all the information that you need to be able to make those decisions for your organization and your team. So thank you so much. We'll move into the roundtable discussion. I've already discussed the big plans for this weekend for us. We're excited that the race and Grand Illumination Parade are coming back. We hope to see y'all down at the parade on Saturday. If you have any questions on that, please give Scott or myself a call, and we'll give you all the information that you need on that. So for the roundtable, there are a large amount of, there's quite a few people on the line. So instead of going down the list calling out names, if you do have something from your organization, we'd love to hear from you. Please put your hand up so we can discuss or hear some events that you have that you would like everybody else to hear about. If you have any questions from us, please go ahead and put your hand up so we can call upon you. To get things going, I would like to receive an update from the Norfolk Health Department. Eve is the emergency response coordinator over there, who's done a fantastic job through the COVID response with the city. And I know there's a big concern now with flu and respiratory illnesses with children. So I thought we'd just go ahead and provide her the platform for a few minutes so she can give us an update. Eve?
Good afternoon, everyone. Just quickly to let you all know, currently Virginia is defined by the CDC as being very high for influenza-like activity at the moment. And influenza-like activity for us here in Virginia, that covers not only flu, but it would also cover people with COVID, and then of course children with the respiratory syncytial virus, so RSV. So right now, about 9% of our emergency department and urgent care center visits are due to influenza-like illness. People are going there for influenza-like illness visits. Unfortunately, about 21% of those visits to either the ED or an urgent care center are in the 0 to 4-year-old age group. So it's our youngest folks that are going to either the emergency department or to urgent care centers with influenza-like illness. So, it's imperative to get out there and, get your kids vaccinated for flu and for COVID. I know that our website currently says that we have not experienced any pediatric deaths yet due to the flu, but unfortunately this morning in our Wednesday morning VDH brief, we heard that we have had the first pediatric death from the flu for the year here in Virginia. It was not in the Eastern region, but the Commonwealth of Virginia has experienced its first flu death. So, it's an unfortunate reminder, but the flu can kill. So it's not a benign disease. And once again, we just encourage everyone to go out there and get their flu shot. There's no vaccine shortage for the flu, and it's readily available at pretty much every commercial pharmacy out there. COVID vaccination, the bivalent vaccines out there. It's also available at every commercial pharmacy. We are also giving it at Military Circle Mall. So each Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., you can get any shot, any COVID shot, the first or second shot or a booster at Military Circle Mall up until Saturday, the 17th of December. That will be our last day at Military Circle Mall. We'll be closing up shop. It's hard to believe, but we've been operating at a Military Circle Mall with the COVID vaccinations in one form or another for over 2 years now. So it's about time that we wrapped it up, and that will be happening on the 17th of December. And also to just kind of throw it out there for folks to start thinking about is that sometime in 2023, the COVID vaccination is going to be becoming more like the flu shot. And by that, I mean, it's going to become, it's going to lose its free status, and it's going to become a vaccination that will be covered by insurance. So if you have insurance, it will be free, it'll be covered. But if you do not have insurance, it will be a vaccine that will have to be paid for. So, it'll then become part of either federally qualified health centers or health departments, one of those vaccines that we cover for folks that are uninsured or underinsured on a sliding scale. But for everybody else, it'll be covered just like the flu shot, where their insurance will pick it up. So that's just something to keep in mind, that that's coming in the next year. And that's about all I have. If there's any questions, please put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them.
Eve, thank you so much. And did you mention the closing of Military Circle Mall Clinic?
Yes, Saturday the 17th of December.
Thank you so much. I had to step out for 1 second. I appreciate that, Eve. Thank you so much. That Military Circle Mall Clinic has been with us for quite a few years now. It's done a phenomenal job at reaching communities far outside of Norfolk as well. The health department, FEMA, area health departments, Ashbridge, it has been a hub of COVID response, and we definitely appreciate Eve and the Norfolk Health Department team to be able to pick up that heavy lift and have been carrying it for so long. So we appreciate you, Eve. Thank you so much. Anybody have any questions for the health department regarding the COVID response or the flu? All right, hearing none. Anybody have anything from their organization that they would like to report out on? Community events, upcoming fun activities, anything for the group? Turn on my camera here. Oh, looks like we got somebody. Let's see who that is. Sarah from Norfolk CSB. Yes, ma'am.
Well, hi, thanks. So since this is about winter, as Daniel knows, I'm going around making sure everybody understands the way shelter works now. For Norfolk is that we had historically until about 2 years ago had the Nest, the Winter Faith Shelters, basically church basement group. They did an amazing job, but they stood down right as COVID was as COVID got started, and then they assisted us with one church in getting to the point where the city could actually take over. So the city is in partnership with the faith communities and always looking for volunteers and organizations to help, have now opened a 100-bed shelter on Tidewater Drive next to the Burger King and the old Economy Lodge or whatever luxurious name it's operated under in the past. So that is actually replacing Nest. We do it 24/7, 365. It is intended for folks who are literally outside and don't make it into other shelters. That is really what the Nest population is, super low barrier shelter. And so that's what we're doing. So a lot of people are expecting, when's the Nest list going to come out and when can people line up at 741. Gosh, I'm forgetting the numbers already. That doesn't happen anymore. It hasn't happened in 2 years. Folks that are on the streets and stop by the center during the day, Monday through 7 days a week. Let our staff know that they are seeking shelter. If it's an urgent situation, we'll do what we can do at the time. If we need to just help them have a safe place during the day, so then they can have a work on getting a place at night, then we start our case management and housing with them. So anyway, just want to let everybody know that's how it works, because this is very new information for some folks.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And I put the telephone number, so if anyone knows of anybody or along your travels throughout Norfolk, you see somebody experiencing homelessness, provide the telephone number to them, or you can call on their behalf to the Housing Crisis Hotline, or you can direct them to the center, like Sarah said, for day services at 1050 Tidewater Drive from 8 to 5 every day to get a meal, a hot meal, some showers, some laundry services, and get on the list for a bed. So especially if we go into the winter season, this is great information to pass along as you're traveling around. So thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Dan,
Thank you.
Dan, I have a question for Sarah.
Go ahead.
Sarah, so from our 911 folks, we actually had this conversation this morning. If they do, if PD or fire do experience or find an individual outside after hours, do they need to be transported to the center on Tidewater Drive? Or can they just be directed to that place?
No, PD or fire would need to bring them or call on their behalf first, because we don't take walk-ups at night. So we don't take admissions at night, and we do manage admissions when weather is really difficult. And so basically when we've declared a winter emergency or declared it would be a Nest day, then we'll the doors are open 24/7 until we reach capacity, and then we figure out what to do. But if someone just walks up in the middle of the night and we don't know they've been identified as high risk by public safety, they're not going to be let in. So, and that is a good management tool on our part, unless we have declared together with EOC that it's going to be whatever whatever our number is, wow number night. So absolutely, and so it may be that you'll need to reach out to Raphael, get him to and Kelsu, get them to give you a new one pager on that, because most PD and fire on the streets have they actually been doing that a lot. But there may be, there's tons of them. They may not all know, and you may have operators that aren't familiar.
Okay, sounds good. I'll follow up with Raphael. And Daniel put the housing crisis hotline, but do you also want is the desk number, the main number at the center, is that manned 24/7 or just during the
If
7
you publish that number, I will personally come over there and murder you.
Oh, Dan gave it to me.
Huh? So
He
you
said
guys
to fix the
actually,
brain.
you guys have that number, right? But if you publish that number, we will murder you. So because the phone will ring 100 times an hour. The housing crisis hotline, that's where people register to say they need help. And if folks are in a crisis, they can contact outreach. They could call the CSB's main number and get put on that voicemail, or they can drop by the center. That's how we make sure people who are literally outside are the ones that are getting the service.
Great, great. And I'll pass that along with our supervisors, and I'll work with Raphael and Carol Sue on that.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. But great question.
Thank you, Sarah.
And I
Appreciate
really won't murder Scott. That was just kidding.
Just me?
Since it's recorded.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Appreciate that. Cheryl, let's
Not
see
on the
your.
tape line, you won't.
Hi, I have a question. The signs that we see around the city at the intersections where people tend to panhandle, they have a phone number on them. What does that phone number go?
I can take that.
Go ahead.
If you want. Okay, so that that number actually is the main number to the Community Services Board. It's an automated like robo number, and there's an option to that says if you are trying to reach the Housing and Homeless Services division, and then that drops you into a voicemail that has been historically our outreach ask for help hotline number. And so it goes into a voicemail's checked every morning. So if somebody says, hey, I saw some guy out under the bridge here, outreach is notified. It's a way for people to tell us what's going on. It is not an emergency response. And if anybody notices somebody in emergency, obviously they would call 911. But that is an opportunity for people to know that they can let somebody know they saw someone in a crisis.
Oh, so it's not for the homeless person. It's for the person who doesn't want to give them the money that they're asking for.
It's either one.
Oh, okay.
For folks that may be new in town that might not know how to find us, it's also an opportunity for them.
Okay. There's a lot of them under the overpass there by Military and Virginia Beach Boulevard.
Always
So,
are.
okay.
Yep, they come and they go.
Okay.
And just so everyone knows, there's a lot more people out on the streets than there are shelter beds for them, and it's going to continue to grow.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Cheryl. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate that. And always great work that CSB is doing for our homelessness. So thank you so much. Let me see. No other hands, but I do want to discuss. I know that everybody has seen, Jared, I don't mean to throw you on the spot, but I know everyone has seen the recent tragedy up at the University of Virginia, and it's terrible. And I know these times are definitely times where we can all come together and kind of discuss and check our plans to make sure how things are going, but it's hitting probably closer to home with Old Dominion University. So Jared, I don't know if you have things or for your students coming up this week, but if you wanted to take the floor for a few minutes and kind of discuss that, I'll let you.
Sure, yeah. Thanks, Dan. So right now we're not aware of any vigils or anything, but that's not to say that those may be taking place. We've already kind of reached out to our partners at UVA, and we know they're busy, so we don't want to add to their stuff that they have to deal with. But we basically said if y'all need help, we're here to support you. Kind of like similar with what we did with the Virginia Beach incident a few years ago. But we have messaging that we've put out to the campus community, and we had some folks that have called and been a little concerned about things, and we've got our counseling services support areas all kind of stood up to be able to provide that additional support. We don't have any further home football games, but we know that our home football, our ODU football team is certainly our thoughts and best wishes are with the folks at UVA whom we played earlier this season. Yeah, we're going to continue to monitor. It's always a gut check for us whenever one of these kinds of things happens, and it gives us yet another opportunity to review the plans that we're looking at. In fact, I've got my other screen right now that has our university emergency operations plan right now. We're going through it and looking for areas that we can tidy up. But I appreciate the floor, Dan. And if anybody has any questions or concerns or anything that we can do to help put folks' concerns at ease, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Jared. And this is also an excellent opportunity for us to be able to collaborate on those plans as well, bringing in our fire department and our police department. So if that's something that we can get on schedule to be able to maybe just do a tabletop at one of these meetings sometime, but just being able to have those conversations, making sure that everybody understands what roles and responsibilities they have during those times. So we appreciate that. Thank you, Jared. All right, is Steve from HRT on? I know he was on earlier. Are you on, Steve? Unfortunately, he may have had to step away. Anyone else who would like to have any conversation, any upcoming events before we end the meeting? Scott, any final thoughts from you, sir?
Well, I'll just put a final plug in for the parade. I know that's one of our last major events, the parade and the race. And it's a chance for us to work with all the other departments and providing a unified command where we get the plans from the police, fire, from HRT, from the DNC, and we're able to look at the situation. And when it comes down to this weekend, we are able to find some gaps in security and traffic and recruit our partners from, the state police and Newport News and Hampton to assist with. So that shows a great teamwork for the Southside Peninsula region. So it's these exercises that we have throughout the cities, in the different months that really promote the unity that our city is capable of. So, like I said, these parades, this event is a good showcase for us all. So besides the work, it's going to be a fun event. And if anybody decides a little bit of cold, bring your families out and enjoy it. We haven't had it since 2019 was the last parade. So we're excited. I know Mary Miller and Noel Grimmage over at the DNC are happy to promote it. And there's actually 72 units marching in the parade, so it'll be a lot of fun. But other than that, I wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving and a wonderful Christmas. We will be talking to you before Christmas, but please take care of yourselves, and thanks for attending our meeting. Back to you, Dan.
So we definitely appreciate everybody pivoting to a virtual meeting. As you heard from Eve, it is flu, and the illnesses are going around. We've had quite a few in this office, so we definitely appreciate everybody's flexibility to jump on a virtual meeting. I know it's difficult to have the communications camaraderie. We're not face to face, but I think it's an excellent opportunity for us to get together virtually, so I appreciate that. Next week is Thanksgiving, so we want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, safe and happy Thanksgiving. December, we are going to not have a meeting for this group. We're going to, hopefully everybody will have some time off with their family, enjoy holiday parties with their organizations, and we will have best wishes and thoughts for everybody for a wonderful holiday season in December as well. So we will get together in the new year. Should you have any questions or concerns from Jim, Scott, or myself, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Our cell phones are always with us. Emails, just reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. So thank you, everybody, for your time today, and we'll go ahead and conclude the meeting. Be safe, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.